Imagine a perfectly ordinary Tuesday afternoon, the kind filled with the gentle hum of everyday life. On a quiet suburban street, a child is laughing, guiding a small quadcopter drone in lazy circles above a sun-drenched park. Suddenly, a smartphone on a nearby bench illuminates, buzzing with a news alert. The headline is stark and alarming, reporting a sudden, devastating attack on a critical piece of infrastructure thousands of miles away. The child's drone, still hovering, captures the scene below as people stop, their faces bathed in the blue light of their screens. Hushed conversations ripple through the crowd as videos, some real, some fabricated, begin to circulate. Some are real, some are fabricated. Within just a few hours, the entire world is consumed by the story. Some have already given it a name: World War VIII. This is the hook-to-history arc in real time, where a single, sharp event instantly becomes part of our collective story. World War VIII, as imagined in this not-so-distant future of 2025, is profoundly different from the conflicts chronicled in history textbooks. The great wars of the 20th century were defined by massive armies clashing across vast territories. The grinding horror of trench warfare, news that traveled at the speed of print and radio. Fast, split-screen, WWI trench, sepia, versus a person in a dark room with multiple screens showing maps and code. Those conflicts were industrial-age wars, fought with steel and gunpowder. The war we now contemplate would be an information-age war, moving at the speed of light. Fought on land, fought on sea, fought on air, and fought across the sprawling, invisible battleground of the global digital network. It's a war fought with algorithms, with automated systems, and with the powerful currency of public perception. The very nature of this new conflict makes it feel simultaneously distant and intensely personal. The initial attack might occur in a remote region, but its consequences would be felt almost immediately in our own homes. The weapons are not just missiles and tanks, but also malicious code that can shut down a city's power grid, AI-driven disinformation campaigns that can sow panic, and swarms of cheap autonomous drones deployed by small groups. This proximity, fueled by a constant stream of unfiltered information, means that every citizen with a smartphone becomes a potential witness, a potential target, even an unwilling participant in the information war. The front line is no longer a line on a map, it is everywhere. Understanding how such a conflict could erupt is the first step toward preventing it. It wouldn't necessarily begin with a grand declaration of war. Instead, it could be the result of a slow burn of tensions, a series of miscalculations, and the unforeseen consequences of our hyper-connected world. Small disputes amplified by technology and political pressures, until they spiral out of control, pulling the entire world into their destructive orbit. To grasp the enormity of the threat, we must break down the complex chain of events into simple, understandable steps, tracing the path from a single spark to a global inferno. It is a history lesson written in the future tense, a cautionary tale for our time. How could a conflict as immense as World War VIII actually begin? It is tempting to look for a single dramatic cause, but the reality is likely to be far more complex, a convergence of multiple pressures that build upon one another until the system breaks. In our interconnected world, a crisis rarely has one source. Think of it as a tinderbox waiting for a spark. In this imagined Eighth World War, we can identify three distinct sparks. The first and most classic catalyst for a major war is a bold, aggressive political maneuver perceived as an existential threat. Imagine a powerful country, driven by resurgent nationalism, seeking scarce resources like water or energy, feeling its sphere of influence is under threat. This country decides to make a decisive move, perhaps by annexing a contested territory, orchestrating a sudden regime change in a neighboring state, or declaring sovereignty over a vital international waterway. The action is swift, justified by a narrative of historical right or national security, designed to present the world with a new reality before it can respond. This is the first spark. Shockwaves ripple through the international community. Neighbors, feeling vulnerable, must react, mobilize their own forces, appeal to international bodies, call on their allies for support. Fear becomes the currency of diplomacy. The aggressor's move is seen as a challenge to the global order. Major powers can't be seen doing nothing. Inaction risks appearing weak and emboldening more aggression. They must choose, confront and escalate, or appease and risk a dangerous precedent. Fear spreads to the public. News channels run 24/7 with expert analysis. Social media floods with patriotic content and anxious speculation. Public pressure limits leaders' choices. A conciliatory leader may be accused of weakness. A leader who uses force may be hailed as defending national honor. In this emotionally charged environment, space for careful diplomacy shrinks, making miscalculation and overreaction more likely. Action and reaction create an escalation spiral. The aggressor, condemned and opposed, may double down to avoid losing face. They might issue more threats or stage more military posturing. Opposing coalitions respond with their own show of force. A single calculated move becomes a tense, multi-sided standoff, each side believing it's defending itself, while the world watches and waits for the first shot to be fired. The second spark that could ignite World War VIII is the disruptive and destabilizing nature of new military technologies. Unlike in past eras, where new weapons took years or decades, the pace of technological change today is breathtakingly fast. The proliferation of cheap, highly effective, and often autonomous weapon systems dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for conflict. A non-state actor or a smaller nation can now possess capabilities once exclusive to superpowers. Imagine swarms of hundreds of small, explosive-laden drones, purchased online for a few $1,000s, overwhelming the sophisticated air defenses of a naval vessel. This is the new reality of asymmetric warfare, where the weak can inflict massive damage on the strong. This technological leap extends far beyond just drones. The realm of cyber warfare presents an even more insidious threat. State-sponsored hacking groups and independent hacking groups can launch devastating attacks from thousands of miles away, shutting down a country's electrical grid, poisoning water treatment controls, or crippling financial markets by erasing data from major banks, causing chaos and suffering on a massive scale without a single soldier crossing a border. Was it a state, a terrorist group, or a lone wolf? That ambiguity makes a measured and appropriate response incredibly difficult, creating a high risk of misattributed blame and wrongful retaliation. Furthermore, the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning has introduced the terrifying prospect of information warfare at unprecedented scale. AI-powered deepfake technology can create incredibly realistic but fake videos. Imagine a fabricated video showing a president declaring war or admitting to a heinous crime, released just hours before a critical election. Such a video could go viral before it can be debunked, causing widespread panic, civil unrest, and potentially triggering a diplomatic or military crisis. When people can no longer trust their own eyes and ears, the very fabric of social cohesion begins to unravel, making populations easy to manipulate and control. The speed of these new weapon systems also compresses decision-making timelines to a dangerous degree. Hypersonic missiles, traveling at more than 5 times the speed of sound, can strike targets anywhere on the globe in a matter of minutes, leaving leaders with almost no time to verify an attack, consult with advisors, or consider alternatives. In such a scenario, the pressure to launch on warning becomes immense. Military command and control systems may be delegated to AI to respond at machine speed, removing human judgment from the most critical decision a nation can make. This combination of powerful, accessible, and incredibly fast technology creates a hair-trigger environment where a small technical glitch or a single piece of fake information could inadvertently start a global war. When one nation is attacked, its allies are often bound by treaty to come to its defense. A localized conflict can become a grander struggle between powerful allied blocs, much as in 1914, now intensified by military, economic, and technological interdependence. Countries are bound by integrated supply chains, shared energy grids, and interdependent digital infrastructures. An attack on one member can have immediate and severe consequences for all the others. Cut off critical microchips, and an economy grinds to a halt, fueling pressure to intervene. In the 21st century, war spreads not just like fire, but like a virus, using our global networks to replicate and propagate. The first vector is the internet and social media. Every individual with a smartphone is a broadcaster. Graphic videos, whether real or staged, can be shared millions of times within minutes, bypassing gatekeepers, driving fear, anger, and outrage. Truth and falsehood travel at the same velocity. State-sponsored troll farms and independents flood platforms with disinformation, portraying the enemy as monstrous and one's own side as purely virtuous. AI-driven bots amplifying messages, creating the illusion of massive consensus for war. A second mechanism is the interconnected global economy. Disrupt a key manufacturing hub or vital shipping lane, like the Strait of Hormuz or the South China Sea, and ripples hit smartphones, automobiles, even medicines. Energy prices spike, unrest spreads, neutrality erodes. Finally, a war of 1,000 cuts. Cyber attacks freezing a stock exchange, GPS spoofing sewing chaos at ports, drone swarms grounding an airport. Deniable, hard to attribute, designed to fracture coalitions and steadily raise fear and mistrust. Daily life becomes a digital siege, not invading armies, but disruptions to modern systems. Rolling blackouts, intermittent internet, public transit failures, armed patrols and checkpoints as constant reminders of emergency. Supply chain breaks mean shortages of imported goods and soaring prices for basics like food and fuel. Industries tied to trade, manufacturing, and tourism collapse. Unemployment rises. Governments pivot to war economies, nationalizing key industries and retooling production for defense. Some sectors grow: cybersecurity, logistics, domestic food production, yet dislocation is severe. Information becomes both precious and dangerous. Relentless news, alerts, and social posts drive psychological stress. People struggle to separate credible information, government propaganda, and enemy disinformation. Trust erodes. In response, digital literacy and critical thinking become survival skills. Families and friends form small, trusted networks, digital islands of sanity. Communities share resources, check on the elderly, build childcare co-ops, secure local networks, and teach how to spot fake news. Small acts holding society together. The end likely comes not from one decisive victory, but from exhaustion and dialogue. As human and economic costs mount, grief, emptied factories, spiraling expense, neutral nations, international organizations, and respected figures broker back channel talks towards ceasefire. War fatigue grows, shortages, anxiety, loss. Promises of quick triumph fade into stalemate. Anti-war movements, protests, strikes, civil disobedience raise political costs, opening off-ramps leaders cannot ignore.